Legacy. Well, I don't think it's necessarily sunk in. I think it takes time for things like that to really mean something. I've spoken to Scott Rowland about stuff and other players, and it takes a long time for that stuff to digest.
How much do you kind of get the help, or not the help, but the guidance and the opinions of older players to kind of put things in perspective as your career unfolds?
I play first base, and I try not to say much, but every now and then I'll ask guys some questions, especially the guys who I think that have been through things that I'm currently going through or about to go through, and I ask their opinion on things. And I've been lucky enough to have gotten some pretty good responses and some good approaches to handling the pressure and the attention and the accomplishments.
What's the best advice you think you've gotten so far?
You have to be able to say no and protect yourself and maintain boundaries and really enjoy it for yourself, because if you don't, everyone else will enjoy it and they'll pull you in all kinds of different directions.
Is that going to be more difficult to maintain that because you did win the MVP, and there's going to be a lot of attention now wherever you go? It's Joey Votto MVP. Are you ready for that kind of attention, or have you even thought about that?
Well, I've already experienced quite a bit of it. I think it's just some of it, just a minor adjustment as far as, like I mentioned before, establishing boundaries and protecting myself and making sure that, most importantly, I'm doing my job and concentrating on that. And that's probably the biggest advantage I have. I can go to the ballpark every day, concentrate on my craft, try to improve, try to be a better Cincinnati Red, and help the team win. And that can take all of that distraction, all those distractions, all that negative energy, all that tug and pull that you can feel sometimes from a lot of people, and you can shift that negative energy to something positive, and I like to use it on my job.
Talking to Bronson yesterday, he obviously signed a new deal. He said that he really likes, the reason he wanted to stay here was a routine freak, but he said he also likes the fact of what this team's doing, the young talent this team has, where it can go. I know the Reds have started talking to your agent about, preliminary talks. Well, that's what I read.
Who said that?
I read that with John Fay, actually.
What did John say?
Just said that Walt said that you guys, the agent and Walt have started preliminary conversations.
Okay.
So I'm wondering.
About what?
About your contract, a long-term contract. Is Cincinnati a place
they've started something on a long-term contract?
Talking about a contract.
Who said that?
Walt apparently talked to your agent, and they said they've.
Well, there's a difference between talking about a long-term contract and a contract. Anybody can talk. They talked about it. They discussed a contract the other day by tendering me.
Yeah.
There you go. That's the contract talk right there. So, I don't think it's fair, because I know that I'm going to get some questions about that. I don't think it's fair for people to say my agent and the general manager have discussed a long-term contract when the only thing that's come up is a contract, or we'd like to do something. It could be 1 year, it could be 11 bajillion years. It doesn't really matter. The point is, there's been some sort of, they want me on the team. And that's a compliment in and of itself to be, I know I won that MVP, but to have a major league contract when it comes time, that's a huge compliment. I consider that an accomplishment. When I came into the big leagues 3 years ago, I was just hoping to get to the point where at arbitration they were considering keeping me for the long term, because you now have to start paying guys realistic money or a little more challenging money. And so right now, I know I'm going off on a tangent, but I'm pretty proud of getting to this point in my career.
Actually, you went further than I was going to ask. I was just going to ask, is Cincinnati a place that you like and you could see yourself in the future?
I don't know. As far as beyond 3 years, I think that's a really unfair question to ask, because, and this is not me saying I don't want to be here, but last year was a difficult year for me, and this year was a better year for me. So it's really hard for me to think 3 years ahead, 5 years ahead, 7 years ahead, 10 years ahead. When Tulowitzki signed that 10-year contract or whatever it was, I was blown away by it, because I can't imagine seeing myself 10 years from now and saying, I want to be here. It's just it's an overwhelming thing to ask a young person like myself and say, here's a lot of money, be happy with this over 10 years. Deal with it, because you don't know where you're going to be in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. So I'm just really trying to. It's been difficult for me to stay in the moment over the last few months because I've accomplished so much and a lot of things have been thrown my way. So for me to say I want to extend past today is, asking a lot of me. It's a really difficult thing to do, and that's why during the MVP questioning afterwards with the baseball writers, I made a point to to say it's a lot to take in. I'm just trying to enjoy the moment and take some time, and you need perspective to get those answers, and I don't want to be peppered with contract talks because I don't have those answers right now. So
With the team and what you guys accomplished this year, how much better can you guys be next year? How much better do you expect to be? And I see this as a young, up-and-coming team that laid a pretty good foundation this year.
I think it depends on the pitching. We overachieved last year, and we surprised a lot of people. And I don't say that in a negative way. I say it it's a pretty darn good accomplishment to win the NL Central. But people are going to be gunning for us. People know that, they know that we expect to win again. The Cardinals aren't going to back down. The Cubs, I'm sure, aren't going to back down. The Brewers look good. The Astros look good at the end of the season. So, there's a lot of teams that have their eyes on us. I think the biggest key is our pitching. We need a consistent 1 through 5. We need our bullpen to pitch as well, if not better, as last year. And obviously, our defense is a huge key. We have to, at the very least, replicate what we did last year. Likely, we have to improve for us to go forward.
Should it be expected that guys like Bruce and Stubbs do improve? And for that, and even Paul Yanish, who's probably going to see some more playing time. I mean, you would think they're at a spot in their career where you would expect them to keep getting better and better, wouldn't you?
You never know with stuff like that, but from what I saw from the second half on, it looks nothing like. It looks like both Jay and Drew Stubbs are going to improve quite a bit. I saw Jay. He broke his wrist. Sometimes that takes a while. It seemed as though he didn't have the power stroke that he had in the past, and the second half of the season maybe he fully recovered and he got that power stroke back. So next thing you know, he could be hitting more than 25 home runs a year, which is a lot. Drew Stubbs, he looked great after he got over that first 6 weeks funk. I thought he played really, really well, and I think he will in the future. But every season is different, and you do have to make adjustments, and you can't expect because you finished off well in the second half or over the last 6 weeks or whatever that you are automatically that is going to carry over. You have to adjust from day one all the way to day 162, and you have to make improvements and deal with what you're faced with.
You being a fairly private guy, and I think people know how focused you are and how much, when it's work time, it's work time. Is there anything you want fans to know about you that maybe they don't know?
Well, you don't know if I'm a private guy, and I think when I go out and do stuff like this, I let people get to know me a little bit. I'm just like everybody else. I just want to fit in and get along and do my job and do as well as I can and be happy and just, be meaningful in a way. And I think I'm just like just about everybody else. Obviously, I am, so.
So you connect with fans pretty good when you're out here. And,
It's
It's
difficult. It's difficult because when you're out there, the energy of the fans, it's they're very fanatic. So it can drain you a little bit, but that doesn't mean we don't get along and I don't enjoy myself with them. It's just sometimes I can be a little worn out, just like everybody else, and I need a breather or I need my private time.